Choose me, Prometheus, and these chains will vanish. Freedom is yours for the taking.
Never. Never.
As Eulopides went inside, Lamia's servant Daimons also followed her back to Morillon. The meeting ends on a note of bittersweet hope, but as Lamia crosses the threshold back into the gray mists of Morillon, the weight of her reality returns with a crushing force. As she reached the skeletal gates of her father's palace, built from the petrified ribs of the great serpent Moros, Lamia made a choice. She tucked the divine bag beneath a loose stone in the hollowed-out root of a withered tree. She couldn't bring the light of Prometheus into her father's house. Not yet. She thought of Eulopides' words. Who knows? Perhaps remain in the dark. He had said it with a laugh, but to Lamia it felt like a sentence. He didn't know that for her, the dark wasn't a metaphor. It was a prison, and yet she had promised to return. The new moon was the only time when the sky of Pyrelithra would be at its darkest, and the shadows of Morillon would be at their strongest. It was the only time they could truly stand on equal footing. The air inside the skeletal halls of the Morillon Palace was thick with the scent of damp earth and salt. Morida sat at a table carved from the obsidian vertebrae of the serpent, the flickering violet torchlight casting long, dancing shadows against his hollowed cheeks. As Lamia slipped into the hall, trying to keep her purple hood low, her father didn't look up. He was meticulously deboning a translucent, sightless fish from the abyssal depths. "You are late, Lamia," said Morida. "The servants have spent the last 3 hours scouring the silt beds for these black roots. They even brought up the pale eye fish from the sunless trenches. Your brothers have already finished their portions. It is your favorite, isn't it?" "Aye. Yes, father," said Lamia with her voice trembling. "It looks wonderful, truly." "Then sit and eat," her father commanded. "The mushrooms are particularly pungent tonight. They grew in the shade of the petrified ribs. They carry the taste of the old world." Lamia stares at the gray, slimy plate. Her mind flashes back to the honey cake and the succulent grapes. "I'm sorry, father," said Lamia. "I think the mountain air made me a bit nauseous. I'm not very hungry tonight. I think I'll just go to my room and sleep." Morida finally looks up, his eyes too cold, dark pits. "Not hungry," replied he. "That is a rare thing for a daughter of the Limocytes. We are defined by our hunger, Lamia. It is the fire that keeps us moving in this wasteland." "I know," said Lamia. Or perhaps, your belly is already full?" interrupted Morida. "I imagine the nectar-soaked fruit of the Sun King's garden is much more satisfying than the scrapings of the mud." Lamia froze. The blood drained from her face, leaving her even paler than usual. "Father," said Lamia, shocked. How did you? Did you think you traveled alone, child?" said Morida. "Did you think those daimons followed you out of mere loyalty to a princess? They are the shadows I cast. They are my eyes in the dark and my ears in the wind. Every word that boy whispered to you, every touch of his golden hand on your shoulder. I felt it as if I were standing right there beside the vine trellis." Lamia sank to her knees, her head bowed in terror. "Please, father," pleaded Lamia. "Punish me if you must, but do not blame Eulopides. He didn't know who I was. He was kind. He gave me food because he thought I was starving. I only wanted to see the light, just once." There is a long, heavy silence. Then, the sound of stone scraping on stone as Morida stands. He walks toward her, but his footsteps are surprisingly soft. "Punish you," said Morida. "Stand up, Lamia." She looked up, confused, as he reached out a cold, gray hand to lift her chin. There was no anger in his face, only a terrifying, sharp-edged smile. "You have nothing to fear," reassured Morida. "In fact, you have done something I thought impossible. You have bypassed the foresight of Prometheus. He is so blinded by his own brilliance that he cannot see a shadow creeping into his own garden." You aren't angry?" asked Lamia. "Angry? No, I am inspired, laughed Morida. You said you would meet him again on the new moon? Good. You will go. You will wear your finest silks, and you will speak to him with all the sweetness of a summer breeze. Why? Asked Lamia, confused by her father's sudden change in temperament. Because, my little serpent, the easiest way to destroy a temple is not to batter down the walls from the outside, explained Morida. It is to rot the foundation from within. Yulilpides is the hope of that kingdom. He is the Ichor of their future. And you are the blood of our past. Let him grow fond of you. Let him open his heart to the nothingness we carry. Every time he breathes near you, he breathes in the miasma of Moros. Morida leans in closer to Lamia, whispering, Let him love the shadow, Lamia, and when the time is right, we will use that love to pull the Sun King off his throne and drag him into the gray mud of Morlin. Go to your room. Dream of your prince. I have much to prepare for your next date. The air in their living quarters was particularly stagnant that evening, smelling of the bitter, metallic slime of the pale-eye fish that sat untouched on the stone table. Lamia's younger brother, Callow, sat huddled on a bench made of petrified wood. He was small for his age, his skin a translucent gray that showed the map of his veins, and he was currently nursing a bruised hand from where he'd tripped in the dark. I don't want the eel, Lamia, he whispered, his voice cracking. It tastes like the bottom of a well. My stomach hurts just looking at it. Lamia felt a sharp pang of guilt. She looked at the door, ensuring the daimon servants were busy elsewhere, then beckoned him into the shadows of the storage alcove. Close your eyes, Callow, she whispered. Why? Just do it, and open your mouth. From the hidden folds of her cloak, she pulled out the divine bag. Even in the murky gloom of Morlin, the bag seemed to hum with a faint, internal warmth. She reached inside and pulled out a small loaf of sunbread, still steaming as if it had just left the palace ovens of Pyrelithra. It smelled of yeast, mountain honey, and the very concept of afternoon. She placed a piece in Callow's mouth. The effect was instantaneous. Callow's eyes flew open, but they weren't the dull, flat purple of the Mori day. For a split second, a golden spark ignited in his pupils. He chewed slowly, his expression shifting from confusion to a look of such pure, crystalline shock that he stopped breathing for a moment. Lamia, he gasped, his voice suddenly stronger. It's warm. It's not just warm on my tongue. It's warm in my chest. It feels like I'm not heavy anymore. He tore into the rest of the loaf with a desperate, joyful hunger. As he ate, the gray pallor of his skin seemed to flush with a faint, healthy pink. The constant tremor in his hands, the shakes of the void that afflicted all the limocytes, stopped completely. For the first time in his life, Callow looked like a child of the light, not a scavenger of the grave. Where did this come from? He asked, licking a drop of honey from his thumb. Is there more? Can we eat this every night? Lamia felt tears prick her eyes. She reached out and smoothed his hair, which felt softer, less brittle. It's a secret, Callow, a gift from a friend, but you can't tell Father. Not ever. If he knows we have this, he'll take it away. Callow looked at the cold, slimy, pale-eye fish on the table and let out a small, involuntary sob of disgust. I hate that fish, Lamia. I hate the black roots. Why do we have to eat the dark when the light tastes like this? The question hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. As Callow smiled, hugging his sister, Lamia realized the horrific double-edged sword of her mercy. Before, Callow was miserable, but he didn't know anything else. Now, Lamia had given him a map to a world he was forbidden to inhabit. She hadn't just fed him. She had accidentally planted the seeds of the same envy that drove their father. Just one more piece? Callow pleaded, his eyes wide and searching. Lamia reached into the bag, her heart sinking. She was giving him a piece of heaven, knowing full well it would only make his hell feel hotter. Dear sister, said Callow, hugging Lamia, I'm so grateful for you. Ever since Mother and other members of our people passed away from eating the giant serpent, you've stepped up so much to comfort me. Father and the rest of our brothers are distant, but you've always been the closest to me, and I thank you for bringing a bit of this baked sunshine into this dark, murky kingdom. The food from your bag is so warm, savory, and sweet. Meanwhile, the food here is so bitter, cold, and dry. Even the dark, cave berries used to make wine here are bitter, compared to the sweet nectar you've shared with me. Will you take me to see Pyrelithra one day, Lamia? One day soon, my brother, replied Lamia, patting Callow's head. One day, we'll both leave the darkness together and enjoy the light with Eurylpides and his people. Meanwhile, in Pyrelithra, it is another glorious, golden sunrise where the citizens of Pyrelithra can see Helios himself bringing about the dawning of a new day filled with the radiant glimmer of hope. The land was filled with blooming flowers, wild honey, the sun's warm gaze as citizens lived in perfect bliss. The land was filled with so much laughter, smiles, and love that one could agree Pyrelithra being the most peaceful place on earth. In the start of the morning, Prometheus walked in the vineyards, the same vineyards where both his son, Eurylpides, and Lamia met and properly introduced each other a few nights ago. Prometheus saw his son using his powers to make the grapes particularly more lush and abundant than before. "That's incredible, son," Prometheus commented. "I take it that the girl you met the other night must really be a huge fan of grapes. Her name was Lamia, if I remember correctly." "Yes, father," Eurylpides replied with determination. "Lamia told me these grapes were the best she'd ever tasted. She's quite the allure, moonlit beauty, if I'd ever seen one. She's unlike any girl I've ever met." "Indeed, I couldn't agree more," said Prometheus, "which is precisely why I came here to talk to you about her. Did you remember those piercing, purple eyes she had? Eyes that glowed with amethyst, along with jet black hair." "Yes, you noticed them too, father?" asked Eurylpides. "You have to admit, they're beyond striking." "Yes, they are," Prometheus replied sternly, "because those features also belong to the god of doom, Moros." Eurylpides' joy immediately was replaced with immediate attention after hearing Prometheus' revelation. "Son, I must be completely honest with you," said Prometheus, "but that girl, Lamia, is one of the Moridae, the sons of Moros. Your mother and I have had multiple unsavory encounters with not just her people, but the very god they originated from in the past. Just as we walk in the light, the Moridae lurk in the shadows. Light and darkness can never coexist. Their leader, which I assume is Lamia's father, Morida, is the king of doom in the shadowy lands of Morlin, and the people of that land have an irrational blood hatred of both myself and your mother, Elpis, which by extension means they also have a hatred for you too." Eurylpides' jaws dropped as he asked his father, "But why? What have we done to warrant such seething hatred? Don't we give to all freely? Isn't Pyrelithra a land of warmth, hope, and abundance? Haven't both you and mother reached out to extend an olive branch to Moridae to partake of our abundance?" "Son," Prometheus replied with a serious look, "you've all listed all the reasons the Moridae despise us. In this world, you don't necessarily have to offend, hurt, or commit evil against someone for them to hate you. There exists individuals that will hate you simply because they want what you have. For instance, it's common knowledge that the Moridae want the abundance of Pyrelithra, but just hate that it's not them that has it. We've opened our gates to them freely," Prometheus continued. "But the curse of Moros' pride blinds them to this. So, their modus operandi is quite simple. If they can't possess the abundance of the sun, they'll do all they can to plunge the world back into darkness." "I don't know, father," Eurylpides said, scratching his head. "I don't think it's that cut and dry. When I first saw Lamia, I didn't see an enemy. I saw a lone girl looking for both a warm place and food. Even my mother insisted on giving her hot loaves of freshly baked sun bread that I gave to Lamia for her travels back home. I gladly commend both you and Elpis for being such divine givers," retorted Prometheus. "However, the Moridae, like their god, are takers without limits. I know I sound harsh, but I'm being completely honest with you. Lamia is young, but once her blood finally awakens, she'll adopt the same mindsets and motivations as the Moridae, and it only takes one traumatic event to expedite the process. I'm telling you all of this because the innocent, mysterious girl you know now is only an illusion before the effects of her cursed blood fully manifest. I'm not trying to crush your dreams, but what kind of father wouldn't warn his son before he is heading into danger? Prometheus looks at his son still being in denial and trying to come up with an excuse to validate his feelings toward Lamia. Prometheus then sighs and gives Eulipides a final tidbit of revelation before letting his son make his decisions. "I know that look, son," sighed Prometheus. "It's the same look your mother gives me when I know she won't back down, once she's made up her mind. Fine, let me tell you a story that not even Elpis knows about, just between father and son. Do you remember the story of me taken into the courts of Olympus, just before being chained by Zeus?" "Yes," replied Eulipides. "It's one of the very hallmark stories made popular here in Pyrelithra. Why? There's an extra bit of the story that I've never spoken about until now," explained Prometheus. "Moros, my accuser, shapeshifted into a seductive figure, resembling his mother Nyx during the trial to accuse me before Zeus. If we know anything about Zeus and the countless children he spawned outside of his marriage to Hera, he can't say no to a pretty face, especially if that face is a Stygian beauty from the underworld dressed in purple and black, wearing blood-red lipstick. Shape and form were irrelevant to Moros, since he's commonly believed to be a force rather than a physical entity. So, depending on the situation, Moros can appear to be a man, woman, or even a giant beast, like the giant serpent, for example. For context, this seductive form wasn't just bait for Zeus. It was initially designed to woo Prometheus away from Elpis. As Prometheus was getting chained by Zeus' decree, Moros in this form approached, caressed, teased, and even offered a choice to Prometheus. Moros was willing to make Zeus lift Prometheus' charges, if and only if Prometheus chose her, Moros, and forsook Elpis altogether. Meaning, Moros was willing to remain in a woman form for Prometheus' pleasure, if and only if he chose Moros over Elpis. However, Prometheus, being a titan of foresight, knows that even if he took this deal, Moros was a being fundamentally fueled by the despair and suffering of others. It was like marrying the most beautiful goddess of the underworld, only to be eternally locked into a toxic relationship with despair itself. That's probably why Zeus perhaps envied Prometheus, because of the latter's self-discipline. Prometheus had eyes for Elpis and only Elpis. As the titan of foresight, Prometheus saw exactly where such a unity with Moros was heading. If Prometheus had agreed to Moros' terms, sure, his suffering would have instantly ended. However, Elpis, seeing the very sight of her Prometheus locked hand in hand with Moros, would have been a devastating, cosmic betrayal where not only Elpis would have likely perished from severe heartbreak, but humanity itself would never again know hope, and Moros' despair would have eternally fed on not only humanity's sorrow, but also Prometheus' grief, knowing that his betrayal is what ultimately led to the death of Elpis. Moros, ever the gloater, would never let Prometheus live it down. After all, Moros feeds on despair, so what else could the Titan of Foresight have expected? In Moros' warped psyche, Prometheus represents everything he lacks and craves: agency, creation, genuine connection. Elpis was the obstacle, the bond that keeps Prometheus anchored to hope instead of surrendering to doom. So yes, Moros was willing to wear the woman's form indefinitely because, in his mind, it would give him eternal access to Prometheus. Not just his allegiance, but his intimacy. A perpetual, toxic marriage where Moros feeds on Prometheus' guilt, regret, and slow spiritual erosion while keeping the Titan at his side forever. That's not love. That's a vampiric obsession disguised as seduction. Moros wanted to be the object of Prometheus' desire because that would be the ultimate victory, turning the bearer of fire and forethought into a willing prisoner of despair. And that makes Prometheus' refusal even more heroic. He doesn't just reject the offer. He rejects the possession, seeing clearly that Moros doesn't want a partner. He wants a trophy. A perpetual feast. In the end, Moros' desire becomes another thread in his own undoing. The more he coveted Prometheus, the more desperately he overreached, and the brighter the light burned when the lovers finally reunited. Darkness always wants to own the light, but light was never for sale. Darkness never gives more than it takes. Moros didn't offer Prometheus genuine love or affection. He was essentially swapping Prometheus' physical chains and suffering, in exchange for eternally spiritually ones, but wrapped in a much prettier bow, Moros' eternal, beautiful form. The golden light of Pyrelythra began to crest over the marble horizon, turning the morning dew into liquid diamonds. Prometheus stood at the edge of the vineyard, his silhouette vast and immovable, while Euryalpides paced the rows of grapes, his shadow flickering with the uncertainty of his heart. Euryalpides stops mid-stride, with his voice heavy, saying, "Father, you spoke of Moros' marriage, of an obsession that wanted to own you, to drain you, to keep you as a trophy of despair. I look at Lamia and I see something else. But I have to know, do you truly believe she is incapable of real love? Will she eventually become that same Stygian beauty, who only knows how to take until there is nothing left but cold fire?" Prometheus turned slowly, his eyes reflecting the ancient suns he had witnessed, and said, "Love, Euryalpides, is a creative act. Moros is a destructive force. To love someone is to want them to grow, to burn brighter, to be free. Moros only wanted me to be his. He wanted to lock the sun in a box so he could be the only one to see it flicker." Prometheus stepped closer, placing a heavy, warm hand on his son's shoulder, and said, "For mortals, they have a saying, the apple does not fall far from the tree. In our world, for gods and titans, that law is written in the stars and etched into our very marrow. We are our lineages. I am the firebringer, and so you carry the light. Moros was the void, and his children carry the hunger of that void." Euryalpides then asked, "So you're saying it's inevitable, that she will become him?" Prometheus, with a rare, weary smile touching his lips, said, "I am the Titan of foresight, son. I see the paths of 1,000 futures, and in most of them, yes, the blood wins. The hunger eventually turns to teeth. However, there are instances, rare as a star falling in the midday sun, when a child refuses to be the harvest of their father's garden. Sometimes, a seed is carried by a different wind and planted in better soil." Prometheus continued, saying, "I have lived by my logic and my visions for eons, but I am not the only one who sees. Your mother, Elpis, sees things I cannot. She sees the maybe in the impossible. She sees the bloom before the bud." He let out a long, grounding sigh, looking out toward the gray mists of Morlin. Prometheus then leaves, saying, "I have given you my warning. I have shown you the scars on my soul so you might recognize the knife if it ever flashes in the dark. But if you and your mother truly have good vibes about this girl, if your heart tells you she is a soul and not a snare, then I will step aside. I trust your judgment, Euryalpides. Just remember, when you play with the shadows, you are the one who provides the light. Make sure she isn't just using you to see her own darkness better." Prometheus walked away, leaving Euryalpides alone in the brightening garden. The Prince of Hope looked down at his hands, which were still humming with the warmth of his father's touch. The warning was clear, but the door was open.